Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and I'm just going to upset some people and say it. The only reason modern bodybuilding training is making anyone really big is because of the drugs. That's it. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so, and if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I'd appreciate it so much. And I mean, really, you just have to go look at various athletes in different sports. Go and look at older school dudes. All the dudes who were there before all the drugs and stuff existed, totally different type of physique, but they were all still jacked. You see all these athletes who, and people say, yeah, but a lot of these athletes are on stuff, but they're not on the amount of stuff guys are using. We need to be clear on that. So when these topics come up and people bring up CrossFitters and boxers and everyone else, and they say really stupid stuff like they're juiced to the gills, that's insane. They're not. They can't be. They can't do the stuff they do and do that. It's impossible. And I'm saying that because people who are saying this clearly don't know anything about drugs. They have no experience with anabolics. And I'm not saying they're not all on a little bit of stuff. They are. But that tends to go hand in hand with sports in general. But if anyone really and truly thinks any of these guys are using 1,000 milligrams of anabolics a week or something like that, whereas in the bodybuilders you're following, an influencer using 3, 4, 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 a week, pretty normal. A lot of these bodybuilders you're following, that's pretty normal. So, but anyone thinks these guys are doing that, sorry, you're delusional. You clearly have never done anything athletic in your life while trying to do that, or you would already know it's impossible. Right? Everyone out there already knows exactly what I'm saying from that world. They're like, yeah, dude, you're not doing that. You're not going for a run. You're not going to do boatloads of gear and go for a run. You're not going to do it. You're going to do a bunch of really high volume stuff. And I think people need to realize, that's where I'm going to segue with this. Why do you think machines and stuff are so popular for all the volume for all these bodybuilders? I mean, you guys ever tried to use a bunch of tren and orals and actually do anything athletic? Can you imagine trying to do any significant amount of standing barbell work? Can you even imagine doing much of it? It's the drugs. They can't do it. The back pumps, the back cramps, the side effects, the lack of cardiovascular ability from all these bodybuilders, they literally can't train that way. Okay? People say, but Ronnie Coleman did the heavy 4 reps, heavy doubles. Yeah. Notice what we said there? Okay? These guys are not doing a bunch of athletic stuff. They can't. Most of them can't. The drugs will literally prevent it. So they do all this other goofball training, and then it gets popularized. And then you see all the evidence-based guys, well, we're over here in tension, it's tension. We're just doing all this stuff on machines. But then the ones who aren't on gear are still tiny. They're not getting results. Right? How many of them out there do we see of these evidence-based guys who really try to train like this, ultra-high volumes, mostly machines, trying to isolate everything, who still have like no size at all? And I don't need anyone saying, oh, Blaha, you don't have size either. No, they're like a third of my size, right? So if I don't have any size, then you're proving my point. So you look at all these guys you're talking about. So if I'm not big, then you just proved my point because they're not in my level. And I'm an old man. Just kind of throwing that out there. See, a lot of them, they're tiny. They're tiny, they're weak. Because this training doesn't work without drugs. It doesn't work. And realistically, no one ever had a problem getting really big doing athletic training. Okay, let's be realistic. The average guy out there would probably reach his maximum drug-free muscular potential not doing any current modern bodybuilding techniques at all. Literally just doing stuff like weighted body weight exercises, some heavy barbell work, dips, pull-ups, squats, and athletic stuff, just conditioning work, GPP, sprinting, jumping, sled work, right? Weighted carries, stuff you see CrossFitters and other people doing who don't know what GBP and things are, right? The average guy would reach his 100% of his possible drug-free size doing that. They don't have to train with any of this bodybuilding stuff because the point is There's no need for it. And even their own evidence suggests that. And a lot of them don't want to admit that. When they pull up and do these studies, when they say, well, tension is tension, yeah, so that means a back squat works. If tension is tension, and that's what their studies always show, well, it turns out compound and isolation movements in the primary movers of the compound causes just as much muscle. Okay, except that you're doing a lot more work per exercise. You're training like 3, 4, 5 muscles. Okay, but their own data shows it's just as good, but it gets a lot more done. So it actually, what their own data, these people literally shows of even these evidence-based people, you don't have to have any of the machines or the isolation. You don't have to have any of it to maximize muscle growth. And I'm not saying you can't do it, but you don't need it. But then we come to all the other stuff. Why do bodybuilders train that? Why do all these bodybuilders train this way? And everyone's like, oh yeah, because we want to isolate these muscles, but we know that that doesn't matter. Why are they really training that way? Because they can't train like an athlete with the amount of drugs they use. They can't do the athletic stuff. They can't do a bunch of stuff moving their body through space. They're not pushing a sled down the street. They're not doing an AMRAP on back squats. Have you lost your mind? Okay? They can't even breathe. Right? They can't even breathe. How are they going to do this stuff? That's why this training has evolved. I think people need to literally understand that. It evolved by necessity. It evolved because of the amount of drugs guys do. They literally can't go do a lot of this other type of training. They can't do the more athletic training, stuff that works the whole body and gets you conditioned at the same time. They'll die in the middle of trying to do it. They'll spasm all over the floor and the back cramps and the hamstring cramps from the drug side effects. They're full of so much oil and site enhancement they can't move, let alone load some of these tissues that way, right? Look how many of them there have to be wrapped up from head to toe to even lift any weight. Look how many of even these pro bodybuilders, they can't even move. Okay, they have to wear elbow wraps to do triceps and pressing. Wow. Knee wraps to do machine stuff because their whole body is destroyed. And the side effects and all the site injection and everything else. Okay, this whole training style that everyone's following has evolved purely as out of necessity because of the side effects of all the drugs. That's it. And then you got natural dudes trying to imitate it. It's ridiculous.